What's good, YouTube? Hey, we got another different video today. We got a video about the fugitive. You know, we fought with the fugitive over here on this channel. We got the worst heist in American history. Hey, if y'all like stuff about the fugitive, I'll make sure I do more stuff about the fugitive going forward. But hey, without further ado, let's get into this video.
American history. The year is 1997, and you want to get rich, quick. You're up to your neck in credit card debt. Budget is so tight you don't have the luxury to buy a comic book in the convenience
You better slang that crap.
store. Exhausted and fatigued from your mundane life and schedule, you turn to illegal methods. No, not drug dealing, online fraud, or selling body parts. You plan a heist. This is the story of David Gantz, the mastermind of what is one of the largest money heists in the United States history. Along with his accomplices, he made away with about 17.3 million US dollars in unmarked and untraceable bills. David had no use for automatic firearms, ski masks, an all-black outfit, or any of the other heist's starter packs. He simply went to work, took $17 million, and got out. Pretty easy, right? Robbing a bank is a time-honored technique used by people who fantasize about never having to work again. But what happened to David Gantz after the heist couldn't have been any worse for him. Enter the getaway van, wear your seatbelts, and let's take a trip in this wild ride filled with betrayal, tunnel vision, and the nationwide manhunt for David Gantz by his accomplices and the federal agents alike.
Honey can save you money on all kinds of sneakers by clicking down there. Sneakers to wear on Valentine's Day. Sneakers to wear on your first day of school. To wear to a party. To wear when you're chilling by the pool. To wear when you want to go on a hike. Sneakers when you eat cheese.
Charlotte, North Carolina was one of the East Coast's fastest growing banking centers. About $100 million on any given day passed through the city and ended up in one of the many banks in the area. The bank in this case was Loomis, Fargo & Co., and longtime employee David Gantz had just been promoted to vault supervisor, working for 75 to 80 hours a week at $8.15 per
$8.15 per hour is crazy.
hour was frustrating enough, but being surrounded by millions of dollars which he could never touch in his wildest dreams was like getting sucker punched every day. He frequently joked about robbing the place with fellow Loomis Fargo employee Kelly Campbell, whom he had struck up a friendship with during work that would continue after Campbell left the company. The jokes turned serious, as Campbell introduced Gantz to an old high school classmate of hers named Steve Chambers. According to her, Chambers could help Gantz execute a massive cash robbery of the vault at Loomis Fargo in one night.
In one night is crazy. Don't you need like months of preparation? Like, don't you need like all that preparation setups? All don't you need some time to set up? He said he could do that shit in a day. He said that shit's too easy.
Gantz was hesitant to agree and decided to think it over. Some days later, he was at the dinner table with his wife, Tammy Gantz, calculating their budgets and debts. Gantz realized that he'd need to work for 30 years to pay off his credit card debts. Now, was he going to continue slaving away for 30 years at $8 an hour?
Absolutely not.
Bubbling under the surface was a deep frustration at the way life had treated him. He decided to call Kelly Campbell, and the stone was set in motion. Over the next few months, Gantz, Campbell, and Chambers developed a plan. Gantz began paying close attention to how Loomis Fargo operated, noting the exact arrival and exit of the cash vans, the number of personnel, and the security protocols. He started to pick apart the security system and noticed that the weakness was the manpower. He also read up on the FBI and realized that their method and principle of investigation is centered around the area of the crime. Once he could escape the state and the country, he was basically a ghost to the feds. He knew taking the money would be easy, but getting away, that's where Steve
Yeah, that's the only thing. Taking the money is probably the easy part. Getting away, that's probably what the words of your woes are. Getting away and staying away. Because they're going to try to find you.
Chambers comes in. While Gantz was doing his homework, Steve Chambers became the real mastermind of this heist. Gantz and Chambers didn't meet or know each other, but only relayed information via Kelly Campbell. Steve Chambers recruited his son Scott Grant and a high school friend Eric Payne with $100,000 apiece to hide the stolen money. He was also responsible for getting Gantz out of the
She's $100,000 apiece to hide the stolen money.
Country down south to Mexico. The plan was simple. Gantz would commit the robbery by himself and then
Why are you going to Mexico? I'm going to the UK, bruv. I'm going there, sir. why would you go to Mexico? Even though I fucks with all my Mexican familiar, I have Mexican family in general. Like I hold that close to my home. But yeah, why would you do that if you could go to UK? Like if I had that, if I ever do a heist and I have that money, I'm going to UK. I'm buying like my own land or something. Like I'm buying own land somewhere else, bro.
And then flee for Mexico, leaving the bulk of the cash with Chambers. While Gantz waited for the heat from the robbery to die down, Chambers would send Gantz small amounts of money. Eventually, Gantz would return to the United States and the full sum would be split up between the conspirators. Man proposes, the FBI disposes. 4th of October 1997 was the day. Gantz kissed his sleeping wife goodbye and took one last look at his home before leaving for work. Later in the afternoon, the crew, clearly nervous, assembled to wait for him. Campbell used Gantz's own cell phone to call him at Loomis to set up a time for the rendezvous. The plan required Gantz to be alone when the last money truck departed from the vault. Then he'd proceed to load up the Loomis van and drive out by 5 p.m. But there were two obstacles in his way. Number one, he couldn't be ready until 6:30 or 7 after the last truck returned. And number two, he was supposed to break in a new trainee today as the vault supervisor. The hour was at hand, time to lock the vault for the day. He waited for the trainee to drive off, and after that, Gantz faced his personal moment of truth and pondered his action for the last time. It was now or never. If he puts $1 into the van, there was no going back. With his palms sweaty, knees weak, and arms heavy, he walked back to the vault and decided to steal it all. Alone in the quiet vault, he took a moment to pause and gaze at his future, lying before him in unmarked, untraceable green stacks. He got to work. His every move was caught directly on tape. By 7:45, nearly an hour later than already planned, Gantz was done. He went to the security room to remove the tape from 2 video recorders locked in the cabinet. He was unaware of a third recorder and got out of the
Oh, you wasn't aware about the
vault. After months of planning and nervous hours emptying the vault, his drive to freedom was all that was left. It was finally, and temporarily, a multi-millionaire. But the euphoria only lasted a few minutes, as he saw a police car at the junction. Panicking that word of the heist had already gotten out, he was so nervous his hands couldn't even light a cigarette. It was just a false alarm, and he continued his drive. He drove the van to the rendezvous point, where he saw Steve Chambers and Kelly Campbell, as well as the 2 other accomplices that were recruited by Chambers. He left the van and entered a car with Kelly Campbell, and they drove down to the airport in what would be their last moments together as non-convicted individuals. He was given only $50,000 to start a temporary life across the border in Mexico. But the heist wasn't over yet. The parked Loomis van was locked, and unfortunately for Chambers and the gang, the key was in a pack of about 80 keys. After much tussle, it was eventually unlocked, and the $17.3 million worth of cash was emptied into 3 sets of blue barrels. The blue barrels were filled to the brim before the entire stash could be emptied, leaving $3 million in the van. The next morning, at 7:15 a.m., 5th of October,
Yeah, I told you that's the one thing. That's the first thing that you gotta deal with. The heist part, you get the money, and then the second part is you gotta deal with is getting away, because they're issuing a worldwide manhunt, sir. So
there was a call to the Charlotte, North Carolina Police Department. It was none other than Tammy Gantz. "My husband didn't come home," she said. She gave information.
oh, the wife called. That's a plot twist. I thought like person that they work with called. The wife called.
On her spouse's work and where he must have been last night. A cop was sent to the vault and found the chain fence open and the door ajar, as well as David Gantz's car parked outside. Backup was immediately requested. The current report was as follows. The vault was shut closed, the keys were missing, a van was missing, and David Gantz was missing. The third VCR tape, which eluded Gantz, was still rolling, and it revealed him taking his time to empty the federal vault. This was a federal offense.
They got you that, and it's a federal offense too. That means if you were caught, that's federal time.
And down came the FBI. The vault was opened and David Gantz was not in the vault. In fact, nothing was in the vault. Gantz had taken $17.3 million in unmarked and untraceable bills. With nothing to look for inside the vault, the investigators hoped to find something outside in Gantz's parked car. A wedding ring was found in the ashtray. The investigators wondered what this meant. With a 24-hour head start, David Gantz could be anywhere within North Carolina or outside. 48 hours after the theft,
Yeah, I don't think he's in here. I think he's already in Mexico.
He was indicted by the grand jury for larceny, and his image was circulated as part of the nationwide manhunt in an operation called Operation Charlotte. But the manhunt proved fruitless. It seemed as if David Gantz had simply vanished. They knew he'd need a large space to transport and store the cash, as well as a number of accomplices. So that led to the question of,
he's a known. The accomplices are an unknown. What's to stop them from knocking him off?
the van was found less than 10 miles away from the Loomis vault. Inside the van was $3 million, 2 surveillance tapes, a Loomis-issued pistol, and both sets of vault keys. The feds wondered why money was left behind in the van. Were they scared? Did they run out of time? Were they out of energy? Or was there insufficient space? The agents looked into background, both home and work. They compiled a list of all Loomis employees to be interviewed, both past and present. There was nothing out of the ordinary in all the interviews they conducted, but only one person interviewed didn't want to take a polygraph test. That was Kelly Campbell, and it raised all sorts of red flags. The
Kelly Campbell.
FBI quickly connected Gantz to
1.2 billion per day, 54 million per hour, and $15,000
to Campbell. The connection to Chambers took a little longer. Chambers became the biggest starting point of evidence for the FBI. He spent his share of the money lavishly, even though the co-conspirators had agreed to lay low for a year or two. Together with his wife, Michelle Chambers, he bought a new luxury home, upgrading from his mobile home, a white convertible BMW Z3, and extravagant furnishings. Michelle bought a minivan in cash and
Sheesh, a minivan in cash. Yeah, Bro, you gotta be smart, bro. You gotta be smart. Whenever you just did a heist, you gotta lay low, bro. So if you gotta lay low, you gotta stay out the way. You gotta.
began
If I ever do a heist, I'm somewhere you don't know. I'm there somewhere. The Netherlands, Alaska. I'm gone.
taking frequent trips to the bank to make deposits. She made small deposits at first, then became more reckless, eventually making a deposit of thousands of dollars.
And then the bank is gonna get suspicious. Like you coming in here with thousands of dollars to the bank. Like working at a bank. Like I worked at a bank in the past, and like I worked in the back where you put the key in to get the deposit out. Like I seen a lot. Like I was security back there. Like yeah, they have to put the key in. They ask you questions about it. Like they do everything in the bank to make sure you're legally putting money in there.
In cash, telling the teller not to worry, it's not drug money. This task failed successfully, as this made the
Yeah, don't worry, it's not drug money. And then, don't worry at all. Why would that would make me think it's drug money? Like,
teller filed Michelle Williams under a suspicious activity report. While this information
she filed you on a suspicious activity report because you said no worries, it's not drug money. I'm bringing that saying thank you. I want to place a deposit.
further cast suspicion on the Chambers, it didn't tie them to the Loomis money. 3 months into the manhunt, the only person they were
It didn't tie them to the Loomis money then.
sure was involved in the heist was still not found. The FBI decided to take a closer look into the Chambers
So they ended up doing the money the right way. They cleaned their money that was already something like clean. Okay.
family. The FBI placed taps everywhere they thought the Chambers could be speaking. With the FBI monitoring Chambers' calls, eventually Gantz called in from his apartment in Mexico, seeking more money. The FBI officially recognized Chambers as a co-conspirator, and they finally got the location of David Gantz.
They finally got
On the 1st of March, the FBI got on a plane to apprehend David Gantz. But
They said no honor amongst thieves.
what they didn't know was that by getting to him first, they saved his life. Now, how did we get here? Let's go back 5 months. Fresh off the heist, David Gantz arrived in Cancun, Mexico, and started living it up, spending his hard-earned cash in
I've been to Cancun before. Cancun's pretty fire. Cancun. I've been there on a cruise. I love it.
Exotic restaurants. He was all alone, a stranger in a tropical paradise, but he still had hopes of Kelly Campbell coming to be with him down the line. His 50 grand had almost run dry in 3 weeks. Wow. And he requested for another 50 grand to be sent to him. To his dismay, only 8 grand was sent by Chambers via a mysterious man named Mike McKinney. It then dawned on him that he might never see the money that he masterminded himself. Months later, a friend of Mike McKinney came to his apartment and told him he was about to be murdered by his accomplices. His grand plan had been nothing short of a catastrophe. He was wanted by the FBI for stealing money he would never see, while also being targeted for death by his partners in crime. He changed hotels frequently.
Jeez.
After learning about his murder scheme, he called Kelly Campbell thinking she wasn't part of the murder scheme, asking for more money and revealing the hotel room he was staying in. This detail was, fortunately, overheard by the FBI.
Revealed where you were staying at and all.
He walked out of his hotel one morning and was picked up by the FBI. Gantz looked at the feds and said, "Please tell me you're an FBI agent. We really need to talk. I'm really glad to see you." And that was it. He was quietly arrested and flown back to Charlotte, North Carolina. On the 2nd of March 1998, 5 months after the heist, a task force of FBI and local police approached the Chambers residence. His days as a rich man were over. Kelly Campbell was the next to be arrested. Mike McKinney was arrested in his hotel for helping to unload the money. Eric Payne also met the same fate. They recovered over $1 million in cash from the private home.
They got everybody.
Most coming from the Chambers Palace, 720 grand in cash and about 460 items. They found cash in desk drawers, shoeboxes, and a blue barrel in the basement. A total of nearly $10 million was recovered from 24 safe deposit boxes that Chambers paid his friends and families to open. Ironically, none of the 6 accused had enough money to hire an attorney. In the courthouse, as
How did you not have enough money to hire an attorney all that money that y'all had?
Gantz and Campbell were waiting for their hearing, Campbell regretted her decision to betray him and apologized, but it was too late. Gantz thought Campbell was going to live with him together, but she only wanted the money and had no intention of leaving the state, let alone the country. There were 21 defendants and 20 pled guilty.
21 defendants and 21 pled guilty.
1 pled not guilty, and that was Chambers' attorney, who
Chambers' attorney pled no guilty.
was eventually convicted by a jury for money laundering. Eric Payne, 6.5
Money laundering. Eric Payne.
years for hiding the money. Scott Grant, 4 years and 7 months for ditching the van. Michelle Chambers, 7 years and 8 months. Steve Chambers, 11 years and 3 months. Mike McKinney, 11 years and 6 months for conspiracy to commit murder. Kelly Campbell, 5 years and 10 months. David Gantz, 7 years and 6 months. He got divorced by his wife while in prison. Feeling unremorseful, he believed that if he had the chance to do it again, he'd do it all over.
Wow, you said if you had a chance to do it again, you'd do it all over. Sheesh. I wouldn't do that. Like, I like my freedom now, and I'm cool with it. And hey, it's been real, The Fugitive, and I'm gonna link everything about The Fugitive in the description down below. Hey, it's been Mike, it's been real. Peace.